Welcome back to another 3 of 7 podcast where I'm the only one that knows what we're going to talk about today.
You didn't even clap either.
Too late. We've already started. I know. I always forget to clap in, and it makes it a pain in the butt to sync the audio up with the video. We video these podcasts now, so if you guys like YouTube, go check them out. We got my brother Brian Scott on the podcast today. Brian has been one of my mentors since I was, what do you think, Brian? About 13, 14 years old when we first met?
It'd be around 2003. 2003, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it was maybe I was 15 when we first met. I remember, I know I had, at some point shortly after we met, I had just gotten my license, because I'll never forget crossing 113 one time. I was in the brown truck. I had just started driving. I had an old 79 model Ford F-250. Brian was riding with me in the passenger seat, and he had drove up to, he used to drive me all over the place, but I had got my license. I was turning across 113, a big 4-lane highway, and I didn't look to see traffic coming. And I remember, I don't know why this stands out so much in my memory, but I made that turn to go into that old house y'all used to live in over there, and there was a car coming right at us, like run 70 miles an hour, and you flipped out, man.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
You called that truck brown sugar.
Yeah, yep, brown sugar. Yeah, you called me out on that one, and shoot, you taught me a lot about driving. I remember one time I was riding with you. I don't know why. Look, we'll get into this in a minute, guys. I was riding with you, and we were stopped at a red light, and we were making a right. We were going to make a right turn, and you stayed stopped, and I was like, Brian, why don't you make a right turn? Why don't you go ahead and turn? That car's got its blinker on, and you said that blinker ain't what's going to kill you.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I sure do.
You taught me so many lessons.
He doesn't like to ride with people anyhow.
No, I don't. It makes me nervous.
He come over here yesterday, picked me up to go hunting, and I said, you can go ahead and throw your stuff in there. He said, you don't want me to drive? I said, yeah, we'll ride in your truck.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got Brian on today. Like I say, we'll dig into who Brian is here in just a little bit and talk through some old stories and learn more about Brian. He's, again, been a mentor of mine and of Blake's. He's held the line of what a brother and a friend should be. He's set the standard for that throughout our lives and given us someone to look up to. Hey, you've never missed a lick, man.
I appreciate
Anytime
that.
we've ever needed you, or not needed you, you're there. You know what I mean? And you've never held nothing against us. You've forgiven us for the mistakes we've made. You've been by our side to encourage us and build us up and train us as men from a very young age.
Y'all have been the same way too. And not only that, y'all's entire family. Mom, dad, grandparents. I feel the same way about all of y'all.
Yeah, it's a blessing, man. It really is. So, hey, yeah, I just got back from Maine. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. I just flew back in yesterday. I went out to do a podcast with Ryan Mickler on Order of Man. He's got a pretty cool show. Ryan was a great dude. Man, he's got an awesome family. He's just doing good stuff. So that'll be coming out. I don't know when. But anyways, it was a good time. Maine was a really unique place. First of all, this will probably be one of the last times that I get to fly, because I'm sure here soon, I'm sure we'll have to have the vaccine to fly. And so I'll just be riding in my Suburban, right? Because you know what look, I'm not anti-vaccine, but when I was a SEAL, you know what I do every time they come around the office with the little flu vaccine? I'd take it and I'd squirt it in the trash can. Why in the crap am I going to get a vaccine for something that ain't going to kill me. It's a cold for me, man.
Right.
Like
right.
I'm not putting something in my body that some wizard has created somewhere. I don't even know. My brain can't even comprehend what it is, but I'm not injecting it in my body unless it's to protect me against something that will kill me.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with that.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I used to squirt that thing in the trash can, man. So this maybe it will be one of the last times I fly. That's all right with me. I like driving anyways. I'll tell you what, man. Y'all know, look, I've told y'all before, we don't get into a lot of political discussion. We don't get into a lot of these discussions revolving around all this crap that's going on, right? And that's because we're interested in, and I know me personally, I'm interested in having conversations that are going to change a person's heart. That's what I'm after, man. And I read something out of the Bible this morning, actually. Jesus is talking to his disciples, and I thought this was a great, account of what I'm talking about when I say I'm interested in changing a person's heart. Jesus says, what comes out of the man, that defiles a man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceitfulness, lewdness, and evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All of these things come from within, and that's what defiles a man. So the root problem of all the stuff that we're experiencing right now in our country, the root problem is people's hearts. It ain't the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Look, just because we don't talk about these issues don't mean we don't have an opinion on them. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm about fed up to the top of my head playing the game. I've about had all I can take. I've endured it, and you can say what you want about the whole mask thing, right? It's easy for somebody that's independently wealthy to say, I'm not going to wear a freaking mask, right? Because they don't have to travel. They don't have to go to a speaking engagement. They don't have to work. They're independently wealthy. Yeah, you can say that all you want. Oh, I'm independently wealthy, so I'm not going to wear a mask. Well, I find myself in positions where I have to go. I was at a speaking engagement the other day in a hotel, and I'm being paid a large sum of money to be there and speak. I'm walking through the hotel lobby, and the mask police stop me. And they say, sir, you got to put on your mask or you got to leave this place. Now, I'm in a dilemma because I'm totally against that. It's a game. I'm in a dilemma here. I'm not independently wealthy. I need this money in order for my business to operate. Do I submit to this request even though it's against what I believe? Or do I walk out of here and put the furtherance of our ministry and our business, in jeopardy by missing out on this opportunity? I had to make a choice, man. The same with this flight I had to take. Maybe I guess I could have drove to Maine. That's 20 hours. It's a lot, I don't even want to say it's a lot more convenient to fly. It's just practical. If you're going to Maine for a day, it's just more practical to fly up there. But I'm faced with a dilemma. And unfortunately, I can't just say no right now because, and so I have to play the game. But I'm about fed up to the top with it, man. I don't know how much more longer I can play it.
There's a lot of people. They're there. They're at the breaking point. A lot of folks, and it isn't just adults. There's teenagers, children that just don't know what's going on with the whole mask deal and everything.
Yeah. I'm sitting on the plane, man, and they come over the announcement and they say, you are required by federal law to wear your mask, even if you have a negative test or you have had the vaccine. It doesn't matter. And 80% of the people at the airport were double masked. That's the new thing.
I seen that the other day.
They're doubled up. They've got the surgical mask on the inside, and then they've got their fashionable mask on the outside. And I'm looking at these cats. I'm like, how do you breathe? Yeah. Like, I wear this thing for a 2-hour flight, and when I pull it off of my face, I'm like, oh my gosh. And you can feel all the moisture in me. I got a big, nasty beard anyways. You can feel all that moisture and nastiness just collecting around your mouth. And I'm like, if I wore this all the time, it would have to make me sick.
Right.
It would you can't convince me that it wouldn't make me sick wearing this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had to deal. Every time I've traveled since all this crap kicked off, and I've traveled quite a bit since all this kicked off, this is a conflict within myself that I'm having to work through, guys. Just know that you're not alone. If you're working through this, I'm working through it right here with you, man. And I'm trying to make decisions based on principle, but unfortunately, like I said, me, just like you guys listening, just like you guys sitting, we have to work.
Yeah.
Right? We have to work. So we're working through this dilemma right here with you. Know that you're not alone, man. I feel it.
Well, you have something that you believe, and you stick to what you believe until something bigger that you believe in is over that. So in your case, at the speaking engagement, you believe in our ministry, our company, and what we do, and that means more than sticking to your guns on what you believe in the mask. So, you stick to it where you can, but if it's going to jeopardize a bigger thing, then at that point, you got to make the decision.
And that's the only thing that keeps me going, to be totally honest with you. It's like, going up to Maine and doing this show with Ryan, if it didn't have a ministry aspect to it, if I didn't know that the main purpose of me going up there was in order to talk about Jesus. Of course, I talk about other stuff, but obviously my testimony is woven into every aspect of my story. If I didn't know that was the reason, I wouldn't go. And I think I actually told Ryan that on the podcast.
Really?
I said, if this was just about me, I would not have come up here. And so I think, that is, Blake, you're right. That's what drives me forward, is I'm looking at, hey, right now, we need to be pushing hard to share our testimony. And if that means I've got to play this game in order to get to a place where I can push the gospel out to thousands of people potentially, then I guess I need to suck it up. Because the fact of the matter is, the majority, it's got to be the majority to change, and we don't have the majority.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm struggling with this, guys. Just know, man, I'm right here with y'all, man. We all are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So think about it. Think about, just like Blake said, the principle that Blake just shared. Think about what is more important, and get after it. So I get up to this place. It's an interesting area. It's cold, nasty, windy. Nothing, to me, Maine is not a place I would want to live, just from what short time I spent there. But I got to meet these guys that run this company called Origin USA, and they basically manufacture clothing and the jiu-jitsu gis that you wear, and blue jeans and boots. And basically they've went all over and found these old manufacturing looms, machines, and they're bringing the production of clothing back to America. They're trying to bring it back to 100% American made. I mean, down to the thread, man.
Right.
So it's a really cool mission, but it was a really cool example of what's happening now in society. And this ties in with all the rules and stuff that have come down from the pandemic. You have people, I've seen this in a few different places. You've got people that are actually building subcultures within a community based around their business or their brand. I've seen this a few times, and this is what Origin had done. They have started this business there. They're very successful. They're hiring people from the local communities, which has a pretty high poverty level. They're hiring these people, and they've set up, like, they've established a subculture within their community where they're just doing their own thing, man. They got their own gym. They got their own facilities. They've bought up all this infrastructure within the town, and they're creating their subculture where they can make their own freaking rules and not have to wear a freaking mask to work, not have to shut their business down, not have to shut their gym down, not have to freaking act like fools, right?
Yeah.
They've done it. And that was cool to me.
Yeah,
I've seen that in a couple other places.
Is that similar to sort of like the mill towns, how the mill towns were in the South? How, they basically owned the village.
Yeah.
And the people that worked for the mill would buy the house from the company. I guess it's sort of similar to that.
It's similar to that, but I think the mill, back then, those mill towns, they were doing that out of a convenience and a sense of community, right? Whereas now it's happening
with a purpose.
It's happening because if you want to get out from under all of this crap, you better create your own little culture. And you better, like Origin, they've been successful enough. They've made enough money that they can buy the infrastructure to do that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it is. It's happening. It's happening with a purpose, and it happened in Rome too. That had a lot to do with the fall of the Roman Empire. Was basically people were setting up autonomous zones or subcultures within the confines of the empire and telling the freaking empire, "Screw you, dude."
Right.
People were moving out to the country to avoid the tax man because it was just over-taxation and they couldn't make a living. Which is, we trust me, don't let me chase that rabbit of taxes, man. So, that was my experience there, for what it is. If you guys, I don't know what you guys take from that, but if you don't take anything from it other than just to know that I struggle with the same things that you struggle with, and none of us sitting here are independently wealthy, and we got to stay in the fight right alongside you guys. So just, if you can relate to it, if it makes you feel any better, that's awesome. If not, whatever. But anyways, to make a real impact and to change this stuff, we got to go back and attack the heart, right? We got to win the hearts of people. And the only way to do that is through the message of the gospel. Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit is the only thing that will change the heart of a man or a woman permanently. It works. Changed my heart.
Right, absolutely. Mine too.
What you got, B?
Just waiting on the meat of the message, son.
Oh, there wasn't no meat in that?
Oh, yeah. But now this is transition here. We're moving on.
What you got,
I've
Brian?
said my piece.
I just been turkey hunting, man. I'm trying to stay dry.
I told Kat's mom and dad come over yesterday, and I said, all I do anymore is turkey hunt and go to the gym. If y'all can't talk about that, I can't talk to you.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah. Maybe we'll have our own subculture one day. Not that we need it. Luckily, down here in Georgia, it's fairly, it's a logic. We still can live a logical lifestyle. But that's part of the requirement. If you work at 3 or 7 project, you've got to sweat every day. You got to sweat every day. That's part of your work, man.
Yeah.
People don't understand that.
It's a good way to get fired around here. You
Miss the gym.
You get to not
Smell
sweat.
good. You smell good. You get fired.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, guys. So Brian, man, I've never really heard the story of just how you were shaped into the man that you are today and that you were when I met you. Because, you know, you've always been a man that upheld a standard, moral and ethical standard, just as a man. Those things like honesty, those things like integrity, shooting me straight. And not only that, but even going beyond that, of being a teacher and pouring into me as this teenage kid that was, you know, essentially, you know, trying to find his path. Mm-hmm. And you really took me in, man, and just, I mean, you poured a lot of time into me, dude. A lot of hours driving to get me, pick me up, and take me here and there and hunt and teach me how to hunt and encouraging me and the whole 9 yards. So, how did you, just from a young age, what shaped you? What developed you into that, man?
You know, I would say just right off the rip that my mom, 100%. I had the opportunity and was blessed to be around my grandparents a lot. And my pawpaw was a deacon at an old-timey foot-washing Baptist church. Never cussed, never heard him cuss a day in his life. Always was praising the Lord. Always praying in front of the grandkids, in front of us, in front of everybody. I think those two, my mother being brought up in that, I wasn't brought up in it until about the age of 12. You know, I always went to church with him, but I remember my early teenage years going to church with him. But I think those two foundations is what stuck with me the longest, the hardest, you know, those two foundations. My dad, he went to prison when he was 5.
When you were 5?
When I was 5. Mm-hmm. I've talked to him maybe 2 or 3 times since then. Have very little recollection of him. But I had a great stepdad later on in life that took that role by the reins and run with it. Mm-hmm. But I would say those two factors, my grandparents and my mother,
yeah,
100%. They was there every day. I talk to a lot of friends and stuff. Nowadays, people aren't in their kids' lives. And I make it a point to be in my kid's life and hope that they see you. When you're a kid, you learn by what you see. You learn by how you're treated. You learn by how the people you look up to, the people that take care of you, treat other people and what they talk about. You know, it's those little seeds. That's what I heard the whole time growing up until my grandfather passed away. And even from my mama this day was about Jesus, the gospel. Mm-hmm. So that wholeheartedly.
Well, you told me yesterday when we was coming back, I guess it was yesterday, coming back from turkey hunting, we was talking about our, you know, just desires, things, talking about getting the Grand Slam on the turkeys. And I said, man, it just takes a lot of time. And you said, man, I was the same way. When the kids were young, if they weren't welcome or they couldn't participate, I just didn't do it. Right. I only did things that they could do so I could spend the most time with them. And right. I thought a lot about that.
Right. There's probably a little bit because I didn't have a dad, so to speak, growing up that was instilled into me that just went without saying that I never thought about. Was probably the reason.
Yeah.
Probably had something to do with being like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you doing? I mean, coming up through your teenage years, I mean, what were you doing? What were the standards that you were held to?
Well, I mean, my teenage years got a little wild after that, you know, just like every other teenager. You party a little bit, you do this, you trying to find who you are. You don't got a clue what you're doing. But those resonated through me the whole time. Just to be a good person. Everybody is who they are. You're who you are. I didn't really have anything, so to speak. Like I said, after my grandfather passed away, that was like my father passing away.
And what was, can you say his name, Brian?
Yeah, Joseph Scott, Joseph Wilson Scott.
Okay.
And my first name's Joseph. I'm named after him.
Yep.
So, yeah. Once he passed away, it was sort of odd. My grandmother had to go live with my aunt, so we seen their left. So that family bond, though we still are a tight-knit family, as that sort of come apart, I sort of come apart. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't the same, but I was getting older too. Teenager, driving, school's ending, you're looking forward to the end of school, so on and so forth. But I still feel that those years between 5 that I can remember, I really don't remember anything younger than that. Between 5 and 12, 13, on up till 16, that was there, and that was solid. Now, a little bit after that, things changed a little bit, but I always kept that. It was in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was your mom like? Your mom and your grandfather, were they strict? Were they, what were they like?
That they were not strict. They were not strict at all. But they were steady. They were constantly steady, not overbearing. Which my grandfather grew up in a way earlier time than what we can only read about it. We can't imagine what it was like. He had an individualism to him that you wasn't going to mess around. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
of course you hear the stories that my mom and aunt told as they was growing up. Well, I didn't want none of that. I didn't want to find the strict side of it. You see what but my mom, she wasn't strict. She was always unconditionally loving, understanding, more than willing to help at anything. And I think that resonated the story even more, because why would she be one way and tell me to be one way but be the opposite toward me? You see what I'm saying? And be overbearing. And not strict at all. Not strict at all.
They just set the example and were consistent.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
They never changed. My grandmother, too, they never changed.
Mm-hmm.
You never seen, some people, a light switch could go from happy to angry with a snap of a finger. I never seen anything like that. Never.
I gotta ask you, man. I've never asked you this before, and if I cross any boundaries with the questions, you just let me know. But how did coming up, knowing that your father was in prison, that's obviously got to be in the back of your mind. How have you? Because you developed into a strong, independent, awesome man and leader that you are today. How did you overcome that, man? And how did that affect you growing up, or did it?
I don't really think it did. There was times 16, 17. I wanted to talk to him, wanted to meet him. Talk about what the deal was. Why'd you do what you did? But I think because my life was always stayed so positive through my grandparents and my mother that it never crossed my mind. You know what I'm saying? I never had any depression thoughts about it, anything like that. I had tried to. I went and visited him in prison. My mother took me when at this time, I'm 18 years old. First time I'd seen the man since he went to prison. 18 years old and seen him. It was meeting a stranger.
Yeah.
Meeting a stranger. You're looking for something to grasp onto. Yeah, that's my dad. That's my daddy, the little boy. It just wasn't there. It wasn't there. No one ever bad-mouthed him. No one ever downed him. I can't tell you why I didn't long for it. I never did. Never really have thought about why did I not really care to go any further?
Mm-hmm.
Since he'd got out of prison, I might have seen him twice.
Mm-hmm.
I seen him back last February of 2020. My grandmother, his mother, I was in her life. I'd go over there, spend the night with her. We never really even talked about him.
Wow, man.
That was sort of odd as I think back on that, before. That was sort of odd. She lived to be 110 years old.
Son.
She passed away last February.
Wow, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she did. And I seen him at the funeral. It was like talking to a stranger.
Still to this day.
But he is.
Yeah.
I don't know who he is. He don't know who I am, But it's never bothered me. Never really gave it a second thought at all. But I think I can't say it enough. That steadiness through a kid of what I got is so valuable.
Yeah.
So valuable.
Yep. I want to talk about real quick, and I just want to honor Mr. Bill in this conversation. Yeah, I knew Mr. Bill. You want to talk about another steady individual, and Mr. Bill is Brian's stepdad. And I want to talk about when Mr. Bill came into your life and what he imparted to you.
So I can't remember the year. I'm going to say I was around 21, 22 years old when my mom started dating Mr. Bill.
Okay, so you were through your teenage years.
Right.
Okay.
And how long they dated before they got married, I can't recollect. But that man was as good as gold. And it was uncanny how they attracted to each other. It was like they had been married all their lives. And it was like he had been my father figure all his life. It was always there, the rock. When me and my wife had kids together, those were his grandkids. I was his son. He included us on everything, in everything. Never missed a beat. Worked hard. Helped me when I was down on my luck, out of work. All he had to do was know, and I had a job in 10 minutes. It didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Just a solid guy.
Mm-hmm.
Loved my mother, loved us. Just a great guy. He would talk about his childhood a lot. And as he would talk about his childhood, you could see the love that he had for his mother and father and his brothers and sisters. And that was a constant. I mean, a constant that I got, even being a young man. Straight up with you, I didn't know how to be a man until I was about 27, 28 years old, period. I know that I didn't. But I also know that I wouldn't have been the way if it hadn't have been for Mr. Bill, if it hadn't have been for his solidness all the way through it.
Yeah. And man, you want to talk about consistent and just a very calming and peaceful spirit.
Right.
You couldn't be in the presence of him. At least I felt like I couldn't be in the presence of Mr. Bill and I couldn't be in his presence and be angry. It was like there was something calming about him. Did you get that?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I couldn't get those words out. The whole time, I mean, he was just straight up calm. Nothing. If he got mad, it wasn't to the level of what you consider average for somebody getting mad. Or if it was higher than that, I never seen it.
Yeah.
It just calm, and it was steady. He had leukemia back in the 70s, and it went into remission. I don't really know the time frames of when it come back then, and so he had done fought some sure enough battles. He would tell stories of how his mom and dad talked about the depression and whatnot. I mean, those people of that generation are a teetotal different mindset of anything we see now, and that probably resonated through him his entire life.
Yep.
He didn't worry about anything. And that goes back to my grandfather and my mother. They didn't worry about anything. I'm sure they had stresses that they didn't let the kids or the grandkids see, and I'm sure Mr. Bill did too, but it didn't overflow onto us. And even when I was a young man, 21, 22 years old, none of that flowed over to me.
Yeah.
And that has a value that is way up there.
It's interesting that you talk about as we go back and we honor these people. You honor your family members, and we talk about the lifestyles that they lived and the things that they had to endure. during those times that they came up through, right? It was a different, and you guys all know this, it was a different lifestyle, different way of life. It was a different type of struggle. And, I was thinking about that at the gym this morning as Jeff quoted gave his quote about essentially train like you fight, right? Essentially, you need to nowadays, you need to do something that's going to inflict some adversity upon yourself in order to develop yourself and, be able to be a well-rounded human being. But I was thinking as he's going through this, I'm thinking, what a unique place we're in. A lot of us in America, what a unique situation we're in where we actually have to go and do stuff to make life hard so that we can be be like the people that we're talking about, like Mr. Bill. I'll bet Mr. Bill or your grandfather or my grandfather or these people that lived through the Depression, that World War I, II, these men and women, I'll bet they never stepped foot in a gym. Yeah. They did not have to seek out these activities to make life. We have to find things to make our lives harder so we can become more well-rounded. They didn't have to do that. It was just the process of life back then. And I'm not discrediting our lifestyles. I'm not saying there's anything. It's great that now we're in a place that we actually have to seek that stuff out. Man, that's a blessing, right? It's a blessing to be in this place. It's just a whole nother dynamic. And I was thinking that this morning, how fortunate are we, and what a unique place that we are. Really, I would imagine we are. This is probably, and if you look back on human history, this is a very unique situation we're in right now. These times to where we have to do that,
Well, so, and those people, all the people that you talk about growing up. Chad asked the question, how did you become to who you are today? And what I hear you saying is those people lived it out, and they didn't really force it down your throat. It's like I don't know who said it, but it's like, I can show you better than I can tell you, And I think about applying that in my own life as a parent. And sometimes I'll try to tell our kids, hey, this is how you need to do it, or do this. But really, you just got to be constant and steady and live out what you believe, and they'll grab onto those things. But we want to tell people because we want the immediate result. We're like, we want you to get this lesson now, so let me tell you how to do it, when really you just need to live it out. And people will pull those. They'll see, man, look at Mr. Bill. He was just constant, steady. Look at my pawpaw. Look at my mama. They were just constant, steady. And when you get of age, you say, man, that's who I want to be like. What did they have in their life? And so that's interesting to me that, you really can't put your finger on, like, why am I the way I am today? Who brought me there? Really, it's a collective effort of everybody living out what they believe in, not telling me how I need to live my life.
Yeah. It's well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Brian.
When you was talking, people back in those days didn't go to the gym. It made me think how big my pawpaw was. 6'2", about 350 pounds. Loaded pulpwood on a pulpwood truck. Had a pulpwood business by hand. Him and one of his other brothers. Now back then it was short wood, of course. So you're talking 8, 9 foot logs, but no telling how big around they were. Stacking a pulpwood truck. He would plow with a mule, and this man's muscle, I could imagine if he went to the gym after he did that, how much protein would he have to eat to even for his body to sustain what he was doing? You know what I mean?
He would have laughed at the weights in the gym and said, That's all y'all got?
I remember one time, me and one of my cousins, they had a crabapple tree by the road, and they lived on a dirt road, and we was throwing crab apples at cars when they went by. We was probably 6 or 7 years old. Well, one of the cars, a Cadillac, stopped and pulled in the driveway. Of course, me and my cousin took off running. They told Pawpaw about it, so he hollered for us, and we hid under the bed. And I won't never forget the force. It was like a tornado picked that bed up and threw it and grabbed us both with the other hand. And, yeah, we got some switching then. But, yeah, strong people back in. They had to work.
Yeah, they did, man. Yeah, very, very different than the life that we live today. And like I say, it's a blessing, but it's cool to reflect back on it, man. I want to talk about real quick. You made a comment just a little bit ago where you said, you know, I don't even think I really knew what it was what it was like to really be a man until 27 or 28 years old. I want you to just expound on that a little bit. Talk me through that process, or what you meant by that.
Well, looking back on it, it seemed life sort of happened really fast then. My wife, we met when I was 18, 19 years old. Of course, we got married. And then the kids come along. It all started when I decided I liked alcohol a whole lot. And those years, they're not really a blur, but I never was acting right, period. My thought process in my head wasn't correct. Even when I was sober during the day, the thought process wasn't correct. You think, well, I've got a sober mind, so I'm good. But it's those little seeds of different types, for the lack of better thing, no, just straight up sin that you have when you're drinking, trying to get drunk, that those little seeds become one big one, one huge, just a totality. So I didn't know how to treat my wife. Now, she may tell you different, but the way I feel about it now and the way I knew I was then is not the same, period. It wasn't the same until I had a recollection of those events up till I was 27, 28 years old, and started working on, hey, I need to take care of these kids better. I need to be the type of people that I seen growing up. And until I could do that, until I realized that, because you had to admit it to yourself, then that's when I could start being a man. That's when I could really buckle down, stay in a steady job, not work a job 2 years and quit. You know what I'm saying? And you're starting all over, not moving every other year. You get a stable home, stay in that home. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It took a long time, and I don't know why that is, other than the alcohol, because I learned at a young age, like I said earlier, when 16, 17 years old, that I like drinking, period. And there's a lot of other factors that went into that. And at the age of 27, 28 years old, I think I just learned to control it better. It didn't go away. I learned to control it better. And that's when, I started stepping up my game on being the type of man that I needed to be for my kids and my wife and my mom and Mr. Bill,
Yeah. And that's right about the time that we met, Brian. When we met, it was my summer job. I was surveying with Dad. My dad and my grandfather owned a surveying company, and we were at a new construction site where they were building a subdivision, and Brian was doing the grading, I think, right, and we were doing the survey. And I had coon hunted with my family members for years and years leading up to this, but I never had any opportunity to actually have a dog, or I loved it. I'd already had that, and somebody had told me you were like a legend around that, within that subculture almost that was in that area of everybody knew that Brian was a coon hunter, die hard, man, and that immediately, like, you were literally like, you had a legendary status. Like, I can remember wanting to just see you and meet you. And it was right around that time. I think you were 27 years old, maybe.
Yeah, it was 2000. So I'd been 20 in 96. So yeah, that'd be about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to mentor me like you did? Because that was a lot. That was a big sacrifice for you.
Well, I mean, the obvious things. People that hunt want to get kids in the outdoors. If you got a kid that's wanting to go hunting, who can say no to a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can say no to a kid, you got some stuff going on. That being the obvious thing, but I'll never forget. I was standing on top of the slope, and you walked up, and you had I believe it was the summertime, so you wasn't in school. You had some red going on, but it's nothing like what you got going on in your beard right there.
Yeah.
And you walked up and you straightforward introduced yourself. You said your name, you stuck your hand out, and you said you would like to go coon hunting. And you said you had a dog and told me the whole story of how you got the dog, Dixie.
Mm-hmm.
And we just hooked up right then,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if we went hunting that night or maybe it was a couple of days later, but we went hunting pretty quick after that. And that first hunt there, I said, okay, this is a good kid, which I'd talked to your dad out there on that job site too. And it was pretty easy to tell y'all was good people right off the bat. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget. I think it was the first hunt that we went on. And it's a worthy story to tell. It may have not have been the first one, but it was one of the first hunts that we went on. We went out to Paul Aiken Road. They were building a subdivision out there. And that's when we were coming up, man, we didn't have the money to lease land. We hunted where we could. I mean, that's the way I remember it anyways. I mean, and so obviously, knowing where these subdivisions, Brian, I think you were probably grading out there, and we were surveying it. And so we went out there to hunt. I think you had two dogs out there, CD and Joe. No, it wasn't Joe.
It was Bandit and Tom.
Bandit and Tom. Okay. Yep, Bandit and Tom. See, Brian had so many dogs. Bandit and Tom. And so we're going out, and if you guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys have never been coon hunting before. So just to explain it to you, you have these hound dogs. They're full-size dogs, right? And you take them, you turn them loose, and these dogs are trained to smell and chase only a raccoon. That's all they're supposed to smell and chase. And they'll find that scent, and they'll trail that raccoon up to the tree that it went up. And then the dog will sit at the bottom of the tree and bark until you get there. So it's an adventure. Coon hunting, every coon hunt is an adventure. When you take those dogs off, you are committed to the dog. Right? If the dog does right, you are committed to go wherever that dog goes. So you may go 100 yards. You may go 6 miles through some of the nastiest terrain I've ever been in has been in coon hunting. It wasn't in the SEAL teams. It was in the woods at night, coon hunting. So we turn these dogs loose. We turn them loose, and they both of them strike in, which means they smell the coon, but they're apart from each other, and they're both running separate tracks. Well, we thought one dog was running it the right way, and then we thought the other one might have been backtracking or doing something crazy, but they ended up coming together right there, and they had run 2 coons up the same tree.
Yep.
Right? And then we had shot one of the coons out of the tree, and it was on the ground, but it was still fighting, right? It was fighting, and for some reason, I had a old snub nose 38 special pistol, and dude, I'm 15 years old, out in the woods at night carrying a snub nose 38 special revolver.
I didn't even know you had it.
Oh, you?
I did not.
I had it. I don't know if I had it in my pocket or what, but here's this coon that's on the ground fighting off our dogs, and we're like, man, we got to kill this coon. We got to end this, man. And so I pull this 38 special out of my pocket, and I look at Brian and I say, here, man, shoot it with this thing. And he shines his light down on this pistol, and no crap, I've got this pistol in my palm, and on the side of the pistol that's facing Brian, he shines his light on it, and there's a massive scorpion.
A big scorpion.
Laying on the frame of the pistol. It looked, I couldn't believe it. It looked like it was engraved onto the gun.
Yeah. I didn't even know we had scorpions that big. It was huge.
Yeah. You thought that was that Scorpion Edition snub nose, didn't you?
It really did. You can't even make this crap up. Yeah. I don't know how it got on the weapon from the time I pulled it out to the time I said, hey, shoot it with this thing.
Right.
I mean, that's obviously I can't forget that it's burned into my memory.
Brian thought that was a setup.
Yeah.
You trying to get me with that scorpion?
He did, man. Yeah, that was wild, man.
Yeah, I believe that was the first hunt we went on.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. I thought it was too. I know it was. Yeah, I know it was really early on. And then we just continued to hunt together. Brian taught me how to competition hunt, and hauled me all over the place. And not only I think a lot of the foundations of my competitiveness came from. Y'all think this is crazy? Y'all listen to this? Y'all think this conversation's crazy? A lot of my competitiveness, and I'm very competitive now, it was, I think, forged and fostered in that arena of competition coon hunting.
Right.
Right? But you didn't just teach me how to compete. You taught me how to act. You know what I mean?
Right.
You taught me how to act. You taught me how to be a respectful competitor. I feel like, because as a kid, I was a straight up kid. I'm out in the woods with grown men. Tempers can flare. Y'all think, again, y'all don't know what I'm talking about. Competition coon hunting is no joke. It is
serious business.
It is
down
very
here.
People take it very, very seriously, right?
Yep. Sure do, absolutely.
And it can get hairy out there. So I'm out here doing this, and you're I think in a lot of ways you were mentoring me on how to be humble when I needed to be humble, how to stand up for myself when I needed to stand up for myself. Do you remember that? I mean,
yeah, I do. But I also had I've got a 15-year-old boy, 16-year-old boy whose mom and daddy trust me that he's up here at the Tennessee line with me. So I wasn't going to let you get hurt, and I wasn't going to let anybody else hurt you. So that probably played along with, hey, maybe we need to back down on this situation right here. Now, Chad, maybe we need to say something right here. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Not thinking it at the time, but you're right. I mean, it can get hairy. You can get in some tights, and there's people that put hands on people in those competition hunts, and just like everything else, a game of football, you see a fight. It happens. I think that's what it was. You was my responsibility as a teenager, and we was, like you said, all over the place, and I wasn't going to let you get hurt.
Yeah.
So
you also weren't going to let me be a pussy.
True that. There was times, hey, Chad, you need to tell him his dog's babbling.
Yep.
His dog's not barking at nothing. And we'd go from there. I think we did good. I really do. I think we did good on just about any situation that come up.
Yeah, I think we did good too. But, for me, it's the lessons that I learned out there, from you. And also, I looked up to you, obviously, but those lessons really forged that proper competitiveness, that proper spirit of competition for the first time in me, because I never played sports. I didn't know what it was about. I mean, I played a little bit of baseball real early in middle school, but it was just something to do. I was never into sports or any of that, so it was an important time, I think, in my life, and a lot of lessons that I learned back in those days carry over to times that I need to be competitive in life now. Of how to treat situations, how to stand up for yourself when you need to, or when you need to back off a little bit and show some humility.
Right. Yeah. So much of those hunts, a lot of it probably bled through because it's supposed to be who's the best dog, but of course when us humans get in anything, our egos and our alpha maleness overrides a lot of that. So we had the option to say, well, is this really what's better for the dog, or is this better for us? Are we up here swinging around who's the alpha male? Are we actually in a competition coon hunt?
Yeah.
A lot of that bled over from that. If it wasn't about the dog and it was just about somebody wanting to be a butt, then they can be a butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember coming home on many nights and Chump would lick your feet. Brian would always kick his boots off after the end of a hard night of coon hunting. And we'd come in. Brian would kick his boots off. He had a dog named Chump, and he'd kick his feet up on the table, and that dog would sit there and lick his feet every time. Would lick his feet for like a straight hour, man.
He liked to keep clean feet.
He loved it, dude.
He was waiting at the door when we pulled up.
He was, man.
Yeah.
He sure was. And then we'd get up every morning and would cook us breakfast.
Yep.
Every single morning, man.
Every morning. Sure would.
Yeah. That was a special time in my life, man. When I reflect back on my own life, I gauge there's not a lot that I remember. So the things that I do remember, I know they were special, and I know there's some valuable lessons there. And I'm writing a book now, just started the other day. I know I said I would never write a freaking book. Paul Stutzman inspired me to write a book after we had that conversation with Paul. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. It's gonna be the book to end all books. Any of y'all listening? After I write this book, you don't have to write a book.
If you're already writing one, just go ahead and stop.
Because this is going to be the book to end all books, all right? And now I'm digging through the files of my mind and stuff like this, the things that I do remember. I'm like, okay, this is why I remember these things. It's because of the valuable lessons that were entwined in the seemingly simplistic, redneck, country. Those things are what shaped me into who I am today. And what is really, those things are what allowed me to become a SEAL. Y'all think that's crazy. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. It really is.
Well, go ahead, Brian.
There's one coon hunting story that I don't know if you remember. Maybe you need to think about it for your research, but you remember Danny Smith?
Yeah.
You called me. It was Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving night was that night. You called and said, hey, why don't we go coon hunting with Danny down in Washington County? Cold, windy.
Oh, no, I remember it.
I said, well, let's go. And I think I grabbed some deer meat out of the freezer or the fridge, and I got to your house to pick you up. You had some deer meat. We had a loaf of bread and some mustard, and we drove 3 hours to Washington County, loaded the dogs up, went to Washington County, and a hunting club y'all had, we drove to it, and some little bitty guy named Pee-wee, Chad talked to him, and we rented a shack from Pee-wee. I think we paid him like $15.
Yep.
And we slept in that shack for 2 nights, and we ate. We didn't have anything to heat this deer meat up with. Cold deer meat. The wind was blowing. Cold deer meat, bread, and mustard for 2 days on Thanksgiving weekend. And I remember my feet had never been so cold for that amount of time. My feet were essentially, the only time my feet warmed up is when we drove from the shack to go hunting. And then when we drove from hunting back to the shack, and then, of course, when we drove home. Do you remember how cold it was
I'm
there?
gonna tell you, I remember it, man. It was in an open area, so the wind came through there, and I don't even think that this place that we were staying in deserves to be called a shack. I think it was more of a shed.
Was that on our hunting club?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that place.
It was an old shed, and there was so many holes and gaps in the walls and boards that you might as well had just slept out there on the ground because it didn't provide much cover. Maybe kept you dry, but it didn't rain, so we were good. But no, I do remember that, man, and I remember those hunts going that weekend going out with Danny on the duck roost, and I can remember riding back into the dogs. At some point, you weren't with us. Me and Danny broke away on the ATV, and here I'm riding back in the cut with Danny. All these palmetto bushes and massive old growth timber down into these big swamps, and they had somehow got some train carts back in there, and they had turned them on their side and turned them into bridges to cross these big sloughs and stuff.
Right.
I mean, it was a wild place, man. That hunt club was a wild place.
It was. I
Hogs everywhere.
Hogs everywhere. I remember you telling me Danny was dropping toilet paper on the ground so y'all could. But now back then we didn't have the Garmin's and the GPS that would lead you back out.
We didn't have GPS.
Yeah.
I do remember that. That specific trip to that tree. They had tree down there on the river, and Danny pulled a roll of toilet paper out and was literally stopping every 15 feet, either dropping a piece of toilet paper or tying a little sliver of it on a limb so we could get our way back out of there, because we knew if we didn't get back to that ATV, we was going to be out there until it got daylight, and it would probably take us another day to walk from there if we were lost back to some form of transportation or road or something. It was
I think that place was like 20,000 solid acres.
Yeah.
Ain't that what Danny? That's a big piece of private land, especially for that part of Georgia.
Yeah.
Middle Georgia, that's a big piece of private land.
Oh, heck yeah, it is.
You could be lost out there for a good little while.
Yes, you could.
All right, let's take a quick break. This is good, man. I love podcasts like this. From school? All right, yeah, go ahead.
What's up, buddy? You didn't work today? Why not? Oh, okay. Hey, you need to get on that Facebook page, and you need to change it to something else, because it's like your person name. What's this dog's name, Blake?
Sadie. Oh yeah.
Got to, man. All right, we're back. Hope you guys are enjoying some of these precious memories from years ago. Now, maybe you have a better understanding of why I have been characterized as a backwoods Navy SEAL wizard hermit.
Well, if anybody wants advice from this, if you want to be a Navy SEAL, first you got to coon hunt.
Yeah, coon hunt for a decade. You want to prepare for buds SEAL training? Quit freaking calling me and asking me how many push-ups you should do. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Get out there and get out.
Coon
go
hunt.
get you a dog and get after it, son.
Yeah.
There ain't. I mean, there ain't nothing. There ain't nothing out there rougher than coon hunting, in my opinion.
In North Georgia mountains.
Yeah, this ain't duck hunting. All you duck hunters, duck hunting is the golf of hunting. It's the golf of the hunting world.
Wow.
It is, man.
What do you think about that, Brian?
Well, I mean, you do got a lot of sleepless nights. We worked and hunted. We drove all over the state. Ate cold deer meat for weekends at a time. I guess he's got a point. I don't think you really do that duck hunting.
No. I want to back up real quick. And this is for, I want to have this conversation because I think it can help a lot of people. I want to back up and talk about the alcohol, man. I want to talk about your struggle against it because I know it's been, at least I think, listening to you, it's been ongoing. And I feel like you're in one of the best places that you've been in for a long time or maybe forever.
Right.
And I just, I want to talk through that at whatever depth you feel comfortable talking through it. How you got to where you are today, what changed your mind about it? How that's really it. I don't want to guide it. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, I think most importantly, as I look at it, I have to look at sort of where it started. Probably at the age of 16, 17, just like, I'm not going to say every teenager, but a lot of teenagers, you buddies, hey, you want some beer? Yeah, I want some beer. Hey, just easy to get. But for me, I learned that I could drink a lot and still wake up and function normally, and I learned that really early. So I drank as a teenager, not every day, and I would say not no more than what you would expect a teenager. Might score some beer every once in a while, might score some beer here and there, something like that. But when I had it, I drank it till it was gone. Now, I didn't know I was doing that back then, young and dumb. As it moved on up, and this is no blame on my wife, but my wife was older than me when we met. 18 years old, 19. She's 6 years older than me, so she was of legal age to buy it at the time in Georgia. It's still 21 to buy alcohol. So anytime I wanted some alcohol, I got alcohol. And that become regular as I become older. I'm no longer in mama's house. I'm out living on my own. So I had alcohol at my disposal as long as I had the money to buy it.
Why'd you like it so much?
I don't know. I don't have a clue. And that, as I talk to people about it now, by no means am I an alcohol expert. They say, well, maybe you need to work some steps through AA or something to find these things out. Right now, I'm good. But I don't know why I liked it so much. I do not. It was always beer. Every once in a while there'd be liquor, but you could pretty much guarantee you once alcohol become readily, and I was, so to speak, a young man, that I was going to be drinking something in the evenings, especially. And then, of course, on Friday, Saturday nights, it was showing up on then. Well, that become a habit. Those little things, like I talked about earlier, built up to all of a sudden I had a habit. Well, 18, 19 years old, young and doing what you want. And I was who Hank Williams Jr. wrote all his songs about. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. In my head, my ego was, I'm this big country boy, this big redneck. This is who I am. That's when that becomes solid in my head, that's who I was.
Your identity.
There was no looking back. That's who I was. Now, there would be times throughout the years that I might take a break. I quit one time for one whole year to the day. And my alcoholic mind on that day, I quit a year, I'm going to celebrate. And rolled right back into it. Added me some more little things to it. And I learned, not consciously, but I learned how to adapt and to live. I knew how to work every day. I could get drunk. Now, when we was coon hunting, I wasn't drinking. But you was there. When I come home, what's the first thing I did?
Yeah, you got you a beer. Yeah.
Got me a beer.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. Maybe that night I didn't drink that much, but you could about guarantee you the next night that I had the ability to drink more than that I was going to.
Mm-hmm.
It just become, I guess for lack of better words, who I was. That resonates through me the most as I think about it, or as I talk to people about it, is I thought I was this person that had to do this.
I can see that. Yeah, I get it.
That I had to do this. I'm King Redneck. Oh, seriously. I mean, I really thought that's who Hank Jr. was singing about. He was talking to me.
Yeah.
And all those old Waylon songs and Hank songs, that was me. You know what I'm saying? So as that rocked on, in around probably a few years after we met and was coon hunting, like I said, that 28, 27 year mark, the Lord saved my soul in 2008. I was fighting with it then in my head. I could see what other people were seeing, but still wasn't to that a mission place.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And I remember one day at work, I'd been praying for 2 or 3 days. And, a lot of people, as I talk and tell them about my grandfather, they just assume that I come up in the church. So I was saved at a very young age, but I wasn't. But I had that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I knew all along what it was, but I was running, not intentionally. I was running as a sinner. That's exactly what I was doing. I was running. And in 2008, it all built up on me. And I remember at work running a track hoe on the biggest pile of shingles that's probably ever been in the state of Georgia. I took Jesus as my Savior. The next thing you know, I'm on the side of this pile on my knees crying. 2 or 3 guys walk up, man, what's going on? I just took the Lord as my Savior. He saved my soul. They looked at me like I had something funny painted on my head.
Mm-hmm.
I won't never forget that to this day. And one of the guys said, man, I want that. I want that so bad. And we prayed our whole lunchtime right there, the whole lunchtime. So that happened in 2008, which changed my life. And I've had people say, well, if that happened in 2008, why didn't you just lay the alcohol down? Well, the alcohol did slow down. It did slow down. I remember it slowed down to where I thought I was a casual drinker. but my level of drinking was already so high that my casual was still above casual. Yeah. I don't know if y'all remember when y'all used to get those UFC fights at y'all's house? Remember the night of my 33rd birthday, we had a UFC night over there at y'all's house. I drunk 33 beers.
Yeah.
I showed up at y'all's house at probably 6 or 7 o'clock, and I drunk 33 beers by the time the fight was over. And I was able to do that. So, like I said, my casual was way above other people's casual.
Yeah. You won't just go and enjoy one craft beer at a restaurant the one night every 2 weeks you went out to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I do that. I'll drink a beer at a restaurant when I go out and eat, but I limit it to that. That, to me, is casual.
Right.
So, yeah, I get it.
So I thought I was being casual. I thought I was not drinking above what somebody would be considered to be an alcoholic. I was not having any financial problems. I wasn't having any problems at home with my marriage. I wasn't mean or hateful with my kids. I wasn't any of these stereotypical things that somebody label an alcoholic was being. My friends loved me. I loved my friends. I wasn't having these problems. So it moved on to about 2009, and I got a job, become a police officer. And I'm just thinking in my mind chronologically, how did everything
this is perfect, man.
Get to the level it was at. I become a police officer. So now I'm Batman, right? I'm no longer am I the man in the Hank Williams Jr. song. I'm Batman. I'm about to save this town that I essentially grew up in, and everybody knows me. Everybody calls me Cornbread. So Cornbread's going to do the best job he can do.
Yep.
And they put me to work in nights, 12-hour shifts. Blake's familiar with how we worked. He was policing. And so then on my nights off, you would work 2 nights a week. You'd be off 2. Then you would work 3 nights, off 2. It would turn out to where you only worked 15 days a month. Is basically what you did, 12 hours, 15 12-hour shifts. So I was up at night on my off days by myself.
Yep.
I had since quit coon hunting, or if I went, it was very little.
Yeah.
And it was very hard for me to adjust. Not an excuse, it's just what it was to that lifestyle. So now I'm staying up at night while everybody else is asleep. So my drinking starts to ramp up. I'm sitting there watching YouTube, watching videos, watching hunting videos, and I'm drinking. I'm new to it, so the other officers really aren't my friends yet. You're still getting into the swing of things here and there. So I'm drinking. My off nights, I'm drinking more and more and more. Well, it gets to the point to where those beers, I'm drinking too much beer. So I have to go to a higher content beer. So I move up to one of the ice beers, right? So I start drinking an ice beer. So that goes on. Well, 2011, Mr. Bill passes away. So now I'm working really hard, still functioning, doing the police gig, doing really well. Won, Officer of the Year, Rising Star of Paulding County, things of that nature. I'm doing fine. Nobody knows a thing. I don't even know a thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know this is happening to me. You know what I mean? Of course, I know when I'm getting drunk, and I know I'm getting drunk every night, but it's not a problem, right? Yeah. Everything. I have no issues in my life.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bill passes away. I leave policing because I want to help my mom get closer to me. She only lives, 15, 20 minutes from Dallas. But I want her to be closer to me. I go back to the previous job I had. To
make more money?
To make more money, exactly. Okay. To make more money. I wanted to be able to help my mom anytime she needed help financially. I didn't want that to be a burden on her. And quite frankly, I didn't want to have to worry about it myself. So if I took the job that I get, then I don't have to worry about that. I got mama back with me. My drinking, now I'm back with my old buddies that I used to drink with, sure enough, on a regular basis. Now I'm back to, I'm these Hank Williams Jr. songs, and that ramps up, that ramps up, that ramps up. Everything's still going good. I go back to policing. In my opinion, that's when it got the worst, when I went back to policing the second time.
Why did you go back to it?
You know, I did have a good bit of friends there. I missed policing. You know, you got the cliche things that everyone says, and I'm not taking anything from that they want to help somebody. They want to make things better. Those are true. Those are there. I missed fighting people.
Yeah.
I missed chasing people. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I truly missed that. I missed that. But that wasn't me sitting here like I'm sitting here now talking to y'all with a sincere thought process and being able to receive things sincerely. That wasn't me. That was still my ego, right? Not thinking right. I missed those things. I went back to policing. So here I am. I'm Batman again. And I don't know why, but things started to bother me a little bit worse this time. There was an instance where 2 young children had got out of their caretaker was asleep. They had a nanny, she was asleep, and they had unlocked the door. These kids were like 2 or 3 years old. No, the door wasn't locked. They went out the back door. They went into the pool. Unfortunately, they drowned. Anything with the children that are elderly, for some reason then, I mean, rightfully so, any human, that kind of stuff is going to bother you.
Yeah.
But that stuff sort of stuck with me and locked onto me then. And it wasn't that I thought about it constantly, but if I started to think about it and I had the opportunity not to, then I wasn't going to think about it, period. You know, there was an instance where a trailer had come off and hit a car, and it went through the car, and this elderly lady that was driving was gripping the steering wheel so hard it broke her arms off, like off of her body.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember walking up to that car, and I mean, just the look on her face. A helpless elderly lady has been, you know, a victimless crime. Yes, somebody had some responsibility to make sure that trailer didn't come off, but they didn't mean for that to happen. You know, those kind of things right there stuck with me hard. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it, you know, Mr. Bill wasn't there. And my kids were getting older, and I had to be more attentive to them then.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really process that kind of stuff in my head the way I had before. Plus my drinking, the number one thing, my drinking was a lot worse. A lot worse. So now we're moving away from the ice beers and we're going to the malt liquor beers, which, you know, the ice beers, I think, are majority of them's like 5.9% alcohol. You go up to the malt liquors, they're like 8% and higher. Mm-hmm. So now I'm drinking these malt liquors, 16-ounce cans, like I'm drinking a regular Bud Light 12-ounce can, and just hammering them, getting what I used to joke and tell my buddies what they'd call what you got going on. I'm about to get shark-eyed. And I would initially feel that I was shark-eyed. You ever seen a shark's eyes? You know, you look at a lot of sharks and it looks like they're looking at nothing. You know, some of them's got just jet black eyes. I would just be there, drunk, blitzed, period. That would be after my wife went to sleep, after the boys went to sleep. Ramped up, got worse. It got so bad that I knew I had to do something, so I chose once again to leave policing. Okay, so if I take myself out of this situation to where I'm able to drink every night like this, maybe it'll be better. That wasn't solving the issue with the right action. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I went back to work at the same place again. Luckily, I'm blessed enough that the owner of that business loves me like his brother, I assume, because he's helped me immensely and keeps taking me back. So that's a true blessing. I go back to work with my buddies. My kids are older now, so we're on, in my mind, step 10. How's this about to affect my alcoholic career? And to say this coming out of my own mouth makes me feel like a piece of crap. But now my kids are older. They've got a license. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Daddy gets to ride around drunk now. Now, I never did have an open container with them in the car or whatever, but instead of saying, no, we can't go somewhere, well, by God, we can go somewhere. Yeah. Where you want to go? You can drive. You're 16 now. So my time was shortened when I took the new job, my free time, right? Because we work long hours. Some days we might work 12 hours, some days 10. I mean, we have work dark to dark.
Yeah.
So my time was shortened. In my mind, I'm saying, okay, I'm helping my issue because I'm shortening the ability to be able to drink at longer periods.
Yeah, and you look at the dynamic of that too. That specific decision while you're there, it's like you are sacrificing the job that you loved doing that was fulfilling to you. Minus the terrible things that you have to see and deal with, but it was fulfilling to you. You're sacrificing that in order to hopefully you're trying to help you're trying to make it better, but right. I don't know, man. That's a bad situation to be in.
It's just masking.
You're trying to mask it. Yeah.
So now they can drive, and that lengthens my time back up again. And like I said, none of these are any excuse. This is exactly what I did, and these were all conscious decisions. So nothing happened to me to make me drink the way I did. I've got an addictive personality, and alcohol runs that.
Yeah, right? These were conscious decisions of an alcoholic person.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a testament to the power of alcohol, period, right. Is that it is powerful enough to change who you are and to significantly affect those conscious decisions. It's not you. Right. It's not Brian Scott the person. It's Brian Scott the alcoholic, man. Yeah. So I mean,
well, as that went on, so that added back to my time.
Yeah.
To be able to drink the way I did. So it ramped back up. It was this constant sort of up, and then it'd go down and plateau at a certain point. Then it would go up even higher and maybe come down, but it never went under the peak of what it originally was before it went up again. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was constantly going up with up and downs in the middle. And I began to notice that because I was drinking so much and my boys were getting older, like Blake said earlier, I made it a point to always be around and do things with them. And they're super attached to me, probably a little too much. I've probably held on to them a little too tight. But I began to notice, because I was being drunk so much, they wasn't doing anything. They were sitting at home. You know what I mean? And last year come up, turkey season, and we hunted nothing like we did before, because I realized I was trying to hurry up and hunt in the mornings, and because I wanted to get drunk at 2:00. I wanted to start drinking at 2:00. And my alcoholic mind, I was coming up with all kinds of excuses.
100%. Yeah.
There's too many people hunting here. Oh, the weather ain't worth nothing. They ain't no turkeys here. All that kind of stuff. I began to realize that, and that began to consume my thoughts.
Was it conviction? Were you feeling convicted about it?
I was definitely. I was so much that I had. Well, I guess it was self-pity. That I was thinking, look what you have done to your kids, well, the problem wasn't look what I've done, it's look what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I had a choice to stop, and I just had to figure out how to do that. But the whole time I knew how to do it. So I got to talking with a friend of mine. They may not want me to mention their name, but I got to talking with them, and they had been through alcoholism. And I talked with them, probably 2 or 3 months talking. And I learned that talking about it really, really helped, but it strengthened that conviction. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And there was one Saturday I was out at the hunting club, riding around looking for deer rubs, not drinking. I never drank and drive. There was times back in my early years that I had drank and drive. I had done that, but after I become a police, that was no. I never drank and drive after that. That's not taken up for the times that I did, but I was out at the hunting club looking for deer rubs, doing some early season deer scouting. And it just stayed on me. And I hit my knees out there right on the side of a pine thicket. And I asked the Lord, I said, he knows what's in our hearts. So I knew he knew. And I said, I need help. I started, I prayed, very short prayer, Lord, please help me. I've got an issue I need you to help me with. And I knew he knew, so I didn't go into detail in my prayer. On the way home, I heard him audibly. He said humility. And when he said that, I knew exactly what it was. I walked in the door. My wife, I always called the old lady, about slipped up. My wife and the boys was sitting there, and I told them, I have an alcoholic problem. I'm an alcoholic. I'm stopping right now. I'm going to the Lord. Anytime I need to drink, I'm giving this to him. And if I do go back to drinking, I promise I will get some additional help. The humility, I had to see their face, and that was it.
Yeah, I get it. I think people that don't know you might not get it, because I think people that don't know you don't understand that you are a person that other people look up to. And I think you're used to that. You carry that load, which we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, everybody, your boys, us, your wife, your mother, everybody always looks up to you. And that's the reason I understand what you're saying, that humility, when you've carried that load for so long, I can only imagine how difficult it was to go before them and admit that you had a problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
My wife knew it all along, and she knew it all along, and we would have conversations and talk about it, but she knew it for a long time. And what a blessing it is to have her to never alter herself against me, you know what I mean, in frustration or in anything like that. She stood there and just watched it go through. Now, it's last August the 8th, so it hasn't been that long, you know what I'm saying? But I'm done with it. I know I am. But
yeah.
When the Lord knew how to move me to make my free will line up with what needed to be done.
Yeah.
Is that the first time you had told the boys and Ann?
I'd had a conversation with the wife about it one time before, but I'm positive I was drunk when I had the conversation. Yeah. I'm positive I was. So there wasn't any sincerity in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and now, you got that vision in your head of what you told them. And anytime you catch the itch to drink again, and you see their faces after you told them that, right. I mean, it'd about be impossible to go.
That's hardcore.
Yeah,
that's hard. That's hard. And I think about it. There isn't the days that I crave a drink are becoming fewer and further between. But I can truly say it didn't get better until I stopped counting the days. And I remembered I talked to a guy when I was policing once before, and he had been clean off meth for like 12 years. And talking to him, and I don't know why that stuck with me, because I talked to him in probably 2010 or something. It was when I was very first starting policing. You know how they do your FTO. They try to put you in tough situations to see how you're going to react and stuff like that. Well, they had me going in and talking to these people that have lived with addiction, are living with addiction. And I asked him, I said, wow, 12 years. Well, when did it get better? He said, honestly, mine got better when I quit counting the days. And I always remembered that. And like, day 43, I'm like, my gosh, Lord, is this going to get better? When am I going to want to quit stopping by the store when I ride to the house? Mm-hmm. When am I going to quit having the thoughts that, I can drink a beer in the parking lot real quick and just ride home and the wife and kids won't know it? When is that going to stop? And I thought about that, just quit counting the days, and it's gotten better.
Well, that goes back to the principle that we teach as far like if you're out running, going from tree to tree, if you're working out, going from set to set, taking things day by day, don't look back and say, how far have I came? Or don't look forward and say, man, I got to live the rest of my life with this. You take it, just like you said, day by day.
Right.
I'm going to pass the store today. I might still have the urge to stop, but I'm not going to. And I'm going to go home, and I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. And it gets better when it gets better. Right. That's pretty cool to see that play out. And
in a different arena.
Yeah.
In a different battle.
Whole different.
Yeah, a whole different battle. It's a universal principle that can be applied anywhere and everywhere. And a lot of people, like Brian, he was doing it. Even if he didn't know he was doing it, he was doing it because it works. One thing that really hit me, man, was when you talked about, when you finally turned it over, when you finally, you were out scouting for sheds, and you said, you got on your knees, and you didn't have to pray some elaborate prayer using some magnificent or descriptive words in order to appeal to God.
Right.
It really I think speaks volumes to me of how you say, God knew what was in my heart. He knew the battle that I was fighting, and all I had to do was say, man, help me.
That's it.
Help me, God. That's it. It wasn't some appeal. It wasn't some case you had to make to him. It was just submission and simple words.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all it was. I mean, I knew that's all it had to be. I felt it. You see what I'm saying? I wasn't there alone. I just knew, period. And I knew he was going to give me what I needed, and it was strong.
Yeah. For somebody that's in the midst of this, what would you say to them?
What's helped me the most after I quit drinking is to talk about it, is to do this here exactly. You get, from what I was doing, I wasn't hiding anything. But as I talk to people and give a testimony about how I prayed to God, prayed to the Lord to help me with this, I can see people light up. They're always, their first reaction, if they know me, is I had no idea.
Yeah.
None at all. And it's how they light up, and that helps me the most. And then you get to thinking, well, man, I can be a little heavy about talking about this constantly, just constantly talking about it. But I let that go, and thank God, thank the Lord for where He put me that day. Mm-hmm. You know, because the victory's in His name. The victory's not to me. I gave that burden to Him, and He said, "You're not going to do it no more." That helps me the most. As far as actually being in it, actively drinking, I can't really tell you that I have any advice, man, because like I said earlier, I didn't know that I was doing it until things started weighing down on me. Mm-hmm. And it took, I'm only speaking from my perspective of having my wife and kids, and my kids especially, you know, seeing how what I was doing was causing them not to be able to do things and not to talk about certain things and things of that nature. So I don't really know that I would have any advice for that. You see what I'm saying? I think you just have to, if you want help, there's help.
Yeah, I think your testimony is sufficient to serve as an example of advice. And, you know, I think that, you know, it's really great that you have identified the power of your testimony, and that you've chosen not to be selfish, and you've chosen to continue in that humility. That word that God spoke to you, humility. You've chose to continue pursuing that humility. It's led you here.
Right.
It really, right. I mean, it really has. If I knew you were still drinking, I couldn't consciously have you on the podcast. I mean, right. we talk about, we made a commitment to the people that listen to this that we are going to bring the most complete people that we can find. Now, being complete doesn't mean you have 50,000 Instagram followers. None of that crap gives you credibility. You know, that's the reason we want people like you, a complete person that's been through that struggle, that is now in the place you're in now, with the willingness to share the hard times and the lessons from it. So your testimony has led you here and will lead you no telling where else in your life.
I think, you know, for people, what I see that you shared that could help other people, that someone that's in active addiction that may not realize it, is, it sounds to me you realized it because you had a set of standards in your life, you know, that you were living up to, and you almost looked in the mirror of those standards and reflected yourself back, comparing to them, like you said, your kids, like, okay, now I got more time because they can drive me around.
Right.
But I'm spending that time selfishly on my addiction and not on time with them. And you just said earlier, that was one of your standards. You're going to spend every moment that you can with your kids. And you realized in that moment, yeah, it's not an external problem. I'm not suffering at work. We got money. Our family structure's fine. But it was an internal struggle. You weren't living up to your own standards of your life. So if you're doing something and you deep down you knew it was a problem, but you didn't really think, right, you know, like the grandeur or the scale of it. So to someone that thinks they might have a problem, from what you shared, I would say, what standards do you live by, and measure that with what you're doing and see how it comes out. That should be able to give you your answer, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to ask you, Brian, and of course I appreciate the courage that you had to share that whole journey from start to finish with us. I've never heard it. I've always been curious of it. A lot of aspects of that I didn't know, and we're close friends. But I've also always wanted to ask you, you carry the burden of a lot of people you don't have to carry the burden for. You choose to do it. Mm-hmm. And you don't do it with a bitter heart. It would be easy for me, if I ever had to walk in your shoes, to be bitter about the responsibility that you have. And you know, I know bits and pieces of. I'm saying this because I know you, and you can
Right.
share what aspects of it that you want to share. But how have you been able to carry that burden? And look, you work. I mean, you put in the work in order to carry that burden, not only financially, but also mentally and emotionally and spiritually for your family. I want you to share with us about that, if you don't mind, and how you do that and how you don't get bitter about it. And I mean, it's impressive to me, man.
It's you got to want to first. I think somebody has to want to take care of somebody, and a lot of that comes from love.
Yeah.
It's just like we was talking about Mr. Bill. I was shown how a man could be strong and help people that aren't directly attached to him. So if that man can do that, right? Somebody that's not his blood and take me in just like I'm his own son, and my sister like he's his own daughter, and just fill us with that kind of love. I mean, that was poured into me wholeheartedly. I've been blessed, I guess, so to speak, that I don't have a worrisome mind about what I should be doing for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing for myself. Everyone that I have the opportunity to help my family is because I want to. And it's not in an egotistical. It's not I can help you because I can. No, I want to, regardless of what any situation is. To me, it's not a burden. It's a blessing. I hope that to my nieces and nephews and my kids, they're seeing the same thing I seen when I was growing up. I hope that's the steadiness is there. The steadiness is there. Now, I can say that, I get a little more upset than what my mama and my pawpaw did at sometimes, but they take that in stride. But they, I think it's working, man. I really do. I get, my boys, I love them to death, and everybody's going to brag on their kids, but I get a lot of bragging from other people about my kids, about my nieces and nephews, that are always with me. So,
well, it's already shown. Look at from what you've invested in me and Chad. It wasn't even yours,
Yeah. And I know one of your nephews just graduated Marine Corps Marine Corps boot camp, and I know a lot, if not all, of what it took for him to get through that experience, whether he realizes it or not, came from you. I just, to me, it takes a really special person to have that perspective that you just described, to where you say, I want to. It's a blessing to be able to set that standard, to be able to be that, be that mentor, to be that person. Whereas, to be quite honest with you, if I was in your situation, I mean, I think I would almost view it as an inconvenience. I mean, just to be quite honest, and that's why I guess that's why I just stand in awe of it.
right. Well, when I was younger too, I also seen my mother do, help my aunt and her kids, and things of that nature. I wholeheartedly believe it's just from the things I seen and how I was raised, and the persona that was passed on unintentionally. The demeanor that I have about it is I don't look at it as an issue at all. I don't even look at it as, hey, that's just how life is. I got to suck it up and eat it. It's just what it is, man. I don't really think about it at all.
You have the heart of Christ about it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Jesus would do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can say about it.
But it's such a stark contrast to other examples that I see of the way we treat our elderly, the way we treat our not our grandparents, our parents. As we grow old, they grow old.
As a culture,
As
American
a culture, and it's not a, hey, I'm gonna leave this job I love to do a job where I can support my aging mother or my aging father. It becomes an inconvenience, and we tend to brush them aside. That's why it's so special. You know, gosh, I don't know. Go ahead.
You know, talking about the way, you know, you see the elderly being brushed aside or people's parents, you always hear the kids aren't today the way they used to be. In my wholehearted opinion, it's that parents aren't the way they used to be. I seen y'all as y'all grow up as young. You was a young teenager when I met y'all. You was younger than him. Y'all's mom and dad was always with y'all. Y'all was a family unit. Today, when someone thinks of sacrifice, they think I'm going to sacrifice time to make money. That's not the sacrifice at all. In my opinion, there's no sacrifice to do. You are with your kids. You are with your family. You sacrifice time away from that job, a time away from that money to be there. That's where the issue is. If you look back how the nuclear family was in the 50s, you can't tell me that you can even compare today to then.
Right.
So is it not the parents are different too?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So why would a kid that's been pushed away all their life and had an Xbox set in front of them for 10 years of their life not push their mama and daddy away when they're annoying them?
It's a direct correlation.
Kids these days are a result of parents these days.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly feel that.
Yeah.
I see that direct correlation. Although I would have never been able to identify it or articulate it if you guys wouldn't have told me that. You know, I think another thing is judgment. I think we, especially as Christians, I think it would be extremely easy for us to judge individuals that are living lifestyles outside of the boundaries of our moral and ethical guidelines as Christians, to look at them, to judge them for that lifestyle, and then say that their lifestyle disqualifies them from receiving anything from us. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
You know, in other words, how easy is it to look at someone and say they're just freaking straight up bumming it? They're bumming it, or they're homosexual, or they're this, or they're that. That's completely outside of the way we think that we should live, and say, I ain't helping that fool.
Right.
We don't.
That ain't what you've done, and that to me is what Blake nailed it earlier. He said, you are representing Christ in a very pure and powerful way through those actions, because you don't do that.
Right. Well, it's thank you, you know, but I don't know that I can take that. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I know, but it's true, because without telling your family business, you know how this applies to you.
Right.
You have to accept that, man.
Yeah. It's a want. Not, it's a true want, and it works. You know, God works. He puts in work in all of us, and he's put in a lot of work on me, and I hope that regardless of what any anyone thinks of me, those kids, that one day they can see that he works, and they go to him.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's not about me paying someone's house payment in the end. You know what I mean?
Come on, brother.
It's that's what it's all about, man. Period.
Now that's perspective, son.
Yeah.
That is some true perspective.
You know what I want people to know is that the people that have all these followers on Instagram or that are doing all these things publicly or have done these things in the past, that's who people want to follow. That's who they want to latch on to and try to get some of what they have. But there's Brian's. That they ain't all over, but there's Brian's in your community. And you don't have to be, I mean, who we are today is a result of the time you spent with us. Like that played a role. We wouldn't be the people we are today if you weren't in our life. There's ways we act, there's things we do because of you. So what I want people to know is that folks just like you are also in their community, not that, few and far between, but latch on to those people. Quit trying to reach out and follow these big people on Instagram. They do have good things to offer, but grab a hold of somebody in your local community that is constant, that's steady, that's working the job, may not be having this big, magnificent thing and gleaming out, but that's steady, that's showing up. And if you're that person in the community, then offer it to other people. Be open like you were to Chad, because you had an audience with Chad. Like he just said it earlier. Man, you had a legacy. I was looking up to you. Whatever you could have said right then, it could have went either way. You could have said, "Oh man, I'm gonna try to get my dogs going. I don't have time to train up a young kid right now."
Right.
And that would have totally changed probably the course of his life,
No, it undoubtedly would have changed the course of my life, and without telling my own family business, I had to make a call to Brian one night when my family fell apart. And if he wouldn't have showed up, if he wouldn't have been there for me to call, I was in Crane, Indiana at Armorer School as a SEAL. And I couldn't leave. I couldn't. He had to stand in my stead. I don't know what my life would be like right now if I couldn't have made that call.
Yep. I talked to Brian on that same night too. In a different way than you did.
Yeah.
But he showed up for everybody, the whole family.
Yeah. So, you guys got a podcast now?
We do, man. Me and my youngest boy, Cooney. Yeah, we're doing a podcast.
What's it called?
Red-Blooded Outdoors.
All right.
Yeah.
What's it all about?
It's going to be about the American outdoor lifestyle. We're going to promote American-made products, good red-blooded American people. Always going to be praising the Lord. That's the gist of it. That's what we're going to be doing. Hunting and fishing stories and so on and so forth. Cutting up, acting a fool.
I hope that's true, but I hope that Cooney can get used to the microphone. For y'all that don't know, Cooney is Brian's youngest son. And
hold on. His name is Tree and Walker.
Yeah, his name is Tree and Walker, which is a breed of a coon hound that Brian used to hunt, right? So we've just called him Cooney his whole life. But I remember when Cooney was born, but man, that joker, if he will just be himself,
Oh, it's gonna be funny.
He could literally. I promise you, I will be listening to y'all's podcast because the not only the things that you guys do as a father-son team, it creates stories. The life that you live creates stories. Just like the other day, we went turkey hunting a few days ago, and it literally came a freaking storm that like it looked like a tornado was bearing down on us. And me and Blake, we cut to the hut, son, and we're sitting in the. Well, let me back it up. The night before, I hit Brian up and I said, "Hey man, we had this turkey hunt planned for like 2 months." I said, "Hey man, it's supposed to storm tomorrow. We can push this thing off to next weekend if you want." He said, "No man, I'm going regardless." He said, "You don't have to go, but I'm going somewhere regardless." He said, "Embrace the suck, right?" And I was like, "All right, well, this joker ain't got soft on me, obviously." And he shows up. Me and Blake cut to the hut at the first sign of drizzle. I mean, we knew the storm was coming, but at the first sign of drizzle, Blake sends me a text. He's sitting on the other side of the field. He says, "RTB, return to base." So I get up. We walk back to the cabin, and we're sitting in the freaking cabin eating bacon and eggs. And we're like, holy crap, these guys
storm
are
too.
out in this right now. Like, it was bad, son.
Brian was saying that Cooney was hearing that rooster crowing, and he was trying to convince Brian that was us signaling them to come back to the house. He was saying, "That's Blake trying to get us to come back."
I said, "No, that's a rooster." He said, "No, listen to it." And it'd crow again. "See, that's Blake." I said, "No, that's a rooster." But you have to understand the mindset I got these boys in to go to the 3 of 7 compound, that this was going to be a turkey hunt like no other. I said, "What if you go with Chad?" I said, "If you go with Chad and Blake, they're liable to take you to the Tennessee line. I mean, this might be pretty rough, so be prepared. I don't know how we're splitting up." I said, "You know the motto: don't die in the chair. Get hard when you stay hard when it gets hard. Embrace the suck."
Yeah.
And we got drenched, and we come back, and Blake was already gone. And you come walking out of the cabin dry, and
with his robe on and house slippers.
When we seen Blake's truck was gone, we walked up that hill, and Buck said, my oldest boy, Buck, he said, "Blake's gone." I said, "Huh." Cooney said, "See, I told you that was him a-crowing for us." I said, "Man, I pumped these boys up for nothing."
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I split the groups up the way I split them up for a reason, because I knowed I wasn't finna sit out in that storm, son.
Me and Chad might have blowed away.
Yeah. Well, now I'll tell you, when we was about 10 minutes from that awning, when it sure enough hit, and before we got there, I thought to myself, I made a mistake sitting out here. I mean, it was lightning, the rain was cold, and that wind, and it was taking my breath. Every other step, I was taking a deep breath. And I thought to myself, my gosh, I made a stupid mistake. We're about to get hit by a tornado right here.
Yeah, God, I'm telling you, this wasn't no little squall. This was a straight up line of brutal storm, son. Yeah. So, I mean, just the stuff that you guys do, if y'all just get on there, and I know you're just getting started out. You got the first episode posted, right?
We're waiting on the verification from Apple.
But you got it posted on Podbean, Spotify,
Amazon.
It'll be Amazon Music. Yeah. It'll be on Apple within probably a week here. Right. Man, if you know, and I know you guys will, but you guys make some real awesome memories. You're out there beating the bushes, man. You're out there in the mix. You guys are the real deal. Cooney's freaking humor will just have you rolling, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to y'all just getting on there and being real and telling the stories, telling the lessons. You know, and I think what a wonderful opportunity for you to even dig deeper into some of the stuff that we've, talked about today. I mean, it's going to be an amazing platform. So you guys check them out. check their podcast out. Where can people find you and follow you on social media, Brian?
We'll have a Facebook up soon, but we're on Instagram, Red Blooded Outdoors. That's red_blooded_outdoors.
Okay.
That's where we're at right now.
All right. I'll attach that stuff in the show notes. And man, this was an awesome episode, man. We covered the whole spectrum, I think, of fun old memories and just some deep principle based conversation. It's a hard episode for me to title because there's so much in it. I've been looking forward to it, guys. We've been talking about doing a podcast for a while now. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and not only reconnect with me and Blake and sit down and have this conversation, but to, the thousands of people that will listen to this, man.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me. I enjoyed it.
Got anything, Blake?
No, I just appreciate you coming out for the podcast, but even more for showing up for us as kids and all our lives.
Yeah, man.
Even to the day.
I appreciate y'all saying that.
You got anything else you want to share, Brian?
That's it, man. If you got a testimony out there about anything, let it go. Tell somebody. You're going to help somebody.
Yep.
I promise you.
That's
promise
true.
you. That's it.
All right, guys. This is the 3 of 7 podcast. Enough said.